right? So we're going to talk about a couple of things in the parsha. One of the main parts of the parsha talks about the laws of Pesach. Remember, the Jews get out of Egypt, Exodus, which is on the 15th day of Nisan. That's when they leave Egypt. And obviously, they didn't have any time to wait for their dough to rise. So they had to make matzah. So that's what the reason why we eat matzah only on Pesach. You can't have any chamets, no leavened bread, right? And actually, the Torah puts a horrible punishment. If somebody, God forbid, eats chamets during Passover, so it says that his godly soul gets cut off. It's one of those real, real serious ones. For certain, sins that are immorality, let's say getting married to a wrong person. So the punishment by that is also the cutting off the soul. So that you can understand more. What happens if I eat bread on Pesach? Okay, so I eat bread on Pesach. So you might not be sensitive to it, but actually the Torah says the punishment is a real, real serious one. But anyways, let's go through a couple of the things. You see, what happens is the whole year we eat bread. When Pesach comes, not only that you cannot eat bread, you also cannot own bread. It can't even be found in your house. For example, imagine if I have a lot of expensive vodkas that are chametz. Or let's say if I have a lot of noodles are chametz, right? I have, let's say, tons of them. I have like 20, 30 pounds or 50 pounds. I don't want to throw it out, but I can't own it on Passover. So that's where the whole concept of selling of the chametz comes. And it's not saying you can't own it. This is even worse than your non-kosher meat. Non-kosher meat, you only cannot eat it. But according to the Torah, there's no prohibition if you have non-kosher meat in your house, as long as you don't eat it. Of course, the rabbi said don't have it at home either, you might come to eat it. But the Torah doesn't prohibit it. When it comes to Pesach, even owning it is not allowed. Not only that, you can't even have the smallest amount of chametz. What are you supposed to do, people, a day before Pesach? What do you do with the chametz? I mean, the ones that you sell, you sell. The ones that you don't sell, you burn. You burn the chametz. So obviously the question that they always ask this question, Rabbi, I don't understand it. The whole year bread is something very, very special by the Jews. You know what I'm saying? You make hamutzi on it. You cover it up nicely when you make kiddush on Shabbat, and you make a blessing on it. What happens that a day before Pesach you burn? Okay, you don't eat. But actually the mitzvah is burning it. When the Torah says you have to get rid of chametz, says the argument in the Gemara, how do you get rid of it? Rabbi Yehuda says you have to burn it, and that's what we do. Why do we suddenly burn it? So actually what we're going to study a little bit now, and why is it that even a little bit of a chametz you can have? Also, there's not a strictness too. Another tough thing about chametz. So first of all, you can't own it, right? You have to burn it. Let me ask you a question. Imagine you have this whole delicious pot of soup made out of meat and chicken and stuff, and then a drop of milk falls into it. When is the situation that you're allowed to have it? If what? Okay. You could. Let's say you throw out the milk, whatever, right? You see the little white spots, you throw it out. So the halacha is, as long as there is 60 times more meat and soup, let's say if the milk is just this little drop, and you have this huge pot, so whatever white spot you see, you throw out. But if, let's say, generally it's 60 times more, you're allowed to have it. You're allowed to have it. Because the Torah prohibited the taste of meat and milk. You understand? And if there's no taste of the milk at all, there's no problem. Let's say if you have a soup, and then a little piece of a non-kosher chicken falls into the soup. So you take that little piece, you throw it out. The juice from the non-kosher chicken went out. As long as the soup is 60 times more kosher, the kosher is 60 times more, you're allowed to have it. But what happens if a little piece of chametz, wheat, falls into the soup in the middle of Pesach? You have to throw the whole thing out. Even if the soup, which is kosher at Pesach, is 100 times, 200 times more. So they said that the prohibition of chametz is even masher a little bit. So strict. The question is why? What was the question?
So what if there's like a cheese pizza, but there's like a little, small, bite of meat?
So throw that out.
Throw away the meat,
yeah, and then also the piece that the meat was on top of it. Sometimes it's kosher meat, you know what I'm saying? Not going to non-kosher places, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, the question is why do you have to burn it? And say even a little bit of the chametz doesn't become nullified. So actually, our rabbis explained there's a huge difference, at least in our soul. Anything in the Torah also has a very spiritual way of serving God. The difference between chamets and matzah is, by the way, you also the way you write it, they're very, very similar. How do you write matzah? Mem, tzadik, hey. Chametz also has a mem and a tzadik at the end, but the beginning is chet, not a hey. They're very, very similar. But there's actually a huge difference between them, and that is because bread rises, it shows on the character trait of arrogance. Bread shows on an arrogant person. Matzah doesn't rise. So matzah shows on a person who's very, very humble. And actually, we're going to learn in books of Kabbalah, they explain it very much in ethical books, that arrogance could take person lower in impurity more than any other sin in the Torah itself. That means the guy could be religious. He could be a big Talmid Chacham, could be studying Torah. Very, very holy man, seemingly. If he's very arrogant of himself, if he holds of himself too much, the arrogance takes him to the lowest levels of impurity. And we could prove that. The Gemara says somebody who's arrogant, it's as if he's serving idols. The worst sin. What's the connection of being arrogant and serving idols? Because serving idols is not only that I deny the existence of God. I could believe there is a God too. But I say there's another power besides God. That's why, Trinity of Christianity is Avodah Zarah, is idol worship for us. They believe there is ultimately a God, but they say God has three parts. There's three parts. There's, the Holy Son, and then there's the Holy Spirit. So obviously they're saying there's others besides God too. So if somebody, for example, says God is a great thing, yeah, God is the greatest, but I'm also somebody. God is not the only existence. He's like a king and a prime minister. The prime minister is somebody without a king, but he's secondary to the king. If you feel that, that's really considered to be worshiping idols. So somebody who's arrogant, why is he arrogant? If he really believes whatever he has is a gift of God, what's there to be arrogant about? You're smart, God gave you the brains to understand. You're rich, God gave you the success. Everything is like God gave us charity. If somebody gives you $1 million as charity, you're going to boast, I got charity $1 million. It's embarrassing. Nobody goes and boasts about getting charity or gifts. If you make the money yourself, what I'm saying, in secular world, you have something to be proud of. So the truth is, Judaism believes whatever you have is a gift of God. So the moment I become arrogant, I'm saying, no, it's not from God. I did it myself. The credit goes to me. So if you think you're somebody in addition to God, that's worshiping idols. It doesn't say if somebody eats non-kosher food is like he worshipped idols. It doesn't say that. Another place, if somebody is arrogant, it's a mitzvah to destroy him. Again, don't go around killing people that are arrogant. But food is very, very, very bad. So that's what chamets, bread, shows. Matzah shows on humility. They say the biggest hamper, the biggest thing that holds you back from getting close to God is the concept of arrogance. So now when Pesach came, the Jews just started becoming a nation. They wanted to get close to God. Right? They were in Egypt, they were in the deepest impurity. So God comes and takes them out from all the impurities of Egypt. So that 50 days, right? 40 days, 50 days to get to Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, to receive the Torah, to get close to God. So whether God says no arrogance whatsoever. That's a concept of burning the chamets. Because chamets rises, shows on arrogance, conceit. So you have to burn it. You can't even have a little bit. Because when we're just starting to get close to God, any amount of arrogance is evil. You can't have it. So that's why it says you got to burn it. That's why if a little bit of chametz get mixed in, kosher Pesach food, you have to throw the food out. Even the smallest amount of arrogance is very, very bad.
So like burning the bread.
That's why you burn the
It's
bread.
like clearing up your sins.
Or specifically arrogance, right?
Yeah, arrogance. Yeah.
But yeah, every sin comes because I'm arrogant. It's important to me. I want to do it. I don't care what God says. But actually, it stems from conceit and arrogance. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So now the question is, actually, when it comes to the holiday of Shavuot, so there was actually a mitzvah to bring chamets. The Kohanim, the priests, used to eat food from the Beit HaMikdash. They were all made from matzah. But on Shavuot, they had a mitzvah to have 2 loaves of bread, which was completely chamets. And the Kohanim made it, whatever it was. So the question is, why does it suddenly become mitzvah if arrogance is so bad? So there's a difference of arrogance and pride. If I'm going to say I'm proud that I'm Jewish, is that a sinful thinking? Of course not. You should be proud that you're Jewish. You're not arrogant. You know the value of being a Jew, right? So what happens is in the beginning, when we just start getting close to God, arrogance is very dangerous because we can't use it for holy purposes. But sometimes when a person actually gets closer and closer to God, he reaches a much higher level, he could actually use pride to serve God. They brought an example. There was one of the followers of the first level of Chabad. Sometimes our evil inclination gets the best of us. It makes us whatever think, yeah, I'm going to do this. It's very pleasurable. I want to do the sin. So he was saying, how did I hold myself back from doing something bad? It says through pride. I would tell myself, you, a follower of the first level of Chabad, you being such a big chassid, such a big follower, are you going to degrade yourself to the desires of your evil inclination? So he used pride. It's not arrogance, not to come to the level of a sin. If let's say you have a guy who's homeless, right? Poor guy didn't eat food for a long time. I'm not putting them down. You give him some delicious food. The guy has no manners, poor guy. What do you want? He's homeless, right? So he's going to eat with his fingers and everything. But if you go, let's say, to a palace of a king, you have to teach the prince, hey, take a fork and eat your food. Take a spoon and eat your food. Of course not. He's not going to come to that level because he's brought up in much different. So when it comes to a Jew also, at least that chassid of the first level of Chabad, because he knew that really he's a godly being. His real essence is his soul, his godly soul. Am I going to bring myself down to do something animalistic? I'm better than that. So that's what the rest of the day after the 7 days of Passover, that already we reach a much higher level. So there's no prohibition to eat bread because then we could use pride in a way to serve God. I hope it was very, very clear. Of course, remember that, guys. I'm a Jew. I'm not going to bring myself down to do these things. I'm a prince of God. I'm not going to bring myself to the animalistic stuff. So that actually, it's a very, very great thing. So that's number one thing that I wanted to speak to you about. There's actually another thing also about Pesach and Matzah. Anybody here loves chocolate matzah, grape juice matzah, correct?
Juice matzah?
Grape juice.
Oh,
What did I say?
grape juice matzah.
Yeah, there is grape juice matzah.
What's that? What is that?
They make it with grape juice. The matzah tastes like grape juice. Instead of putting water, they put grape juice in it.
Wow.
Yeah. There's chocolate matzah. Then there's the egg matzah, right? Egg matzah everybody loves. So now, the night of Passover, are you allowed to use egg matzah instead of the matzah to fulfill the mitzvah or no? Of course, you're allowed to eat it. But I'm saying, I don't like this dry matzah, it has no taste. I'd rather, for the mitzvah of the night, use the egg matzah or the grape juice matzah. Are you allowed to do that?
No.
Why not?
Shouldn't it just be pure matzah to make it?
Exactly. So the Torah says the matzah that you have to have has to be lechem oni. Lechem oni means the bread of a poor man. What does it mean? Why is the matzah called the bread of a poor man? So you know what the joke is. Because it's so expensive that makes you poor. But that's not the real reason. When it says lechem oni, bread of a poor man has no money to go get all these tastes, and what do you call it? All these spices to make it tasty. He could only afford flour and water, nothing else. So the matzah, which is only flour and water, no salt, nothing. Not even salt is added. Actually, a lot of people not of Pesach, they don't even put the matzah into salt because they don't want to destroy the taste of the matzah, to diminish the taste.
Is the salt like
What?
the salt just ruins the taste completely? Or?
No, just whatever. It gets mixed with this tasty, it's salty taste too. So again, it's called lechem oni, poor man's bread, because poor people don't have all these luxuries to add taste to their bread. So the Torah says the way you do the mitzvah is lechem oni, the bread of a poor man, which is a matzah with no taste. If you study Kabbalah, actually, Kabbalah says that these matzot show on 2 different levels of serving God. Lechem oni, the regular matzah that doesn't have any taste, you know what it shows? It shows on a person that he has no taste in serving God. He wishes he didn't have to serve God. It shows on a very, very low level. Serving God is a burden for him. Have you seen sometimes, kids that are so excited to serve God? So that lechem oni, which means the bread has no taste. It resembles a person that has no pleasure in serving God. But the matzah that tastes good, either like chocolate or like grape juice or like eggs and onions, whatever it is, garlic, whatever the matzah tastes, because he has a good taste, it shows on a person that he enjoys serving God. So which one is higher? The matzah that has a taste shows on a higher level. The matzah that has no taste shows regular people. We don't enjoy serving God. I wish I could sleep another hour. I have to get up, go put on tefillin. My gosh, why couldn't God say put on tefillin at night?
Is there regular flavored matzah?
What?
So why is there like blank flavored matzah?
Oh, that's what we're discussing. But God says, you know what? The night of Passover, the only way you do the mitzvah is only the plain matzah, no taste. That's a question that you're asking. If the matzah that has a taste shows on a higher level of serving God, right? It shows that you enjoy serving God. So we should have that matzah. Why is God telling us to eat matzah that breaks your teeth? When I was a kid, I loved matzah. But now I get constipated. I get stomach aches. You get heavy at the age of 40, 50. So I don't like it anymore. I'm just kidding. But I don't eat as much of it because it's like, it's hurtful. So really, why did God give us this hard thing of eating matzah? So actually the answer that they give is, when somebody enjoys serving God, it's a very, very great lesson for us. When somebody serves God because he enjoys it, right? It's a very high level, much higher level. But really, he's serving his own interest, maybe. He's doing something that he enjoys. If somebody really has no taste, no desire to serve God, but he still does it anyways, why is he doing it? He doesn't enjoy it because God said so. So who's giving up more of himself? Right. Who's giving up? Who's forgetting, sacrificing himself more? Who's a real servant of God? Someone that enjoys what he's doing? He's serving himself. If I enjoy learning, I'm doing it because I enjoy learning. If I'm praying because I enjoy praying, I'm praying because I'm enjoying it. I'm not doing it to serve God. Of course, I'm doing it for that too. But it's my own self-interest. So the matzah, which is a higher level, tastes good, right? It shows a person that enjoys serving God. So he does it because he enjoys it. There's a self-interest. The matzah that has no taste shows on a Jew that because he knows God is right, even though he doesn't enjoy it, he does it anyways. That's a bigger sacrifice, bigger service of God. So God says, I enjoy this one more. Because you're putting yourself aside for my sake. There was actually a story with the Tzemach Tzedek. He was the third Chabad Rebbe. He had a follower that he said, Rebbe, I have a complaint. I don't enjoy learning. What should I do? He didn't enjoy learning Torah. What should I do? So you know what the Tzemach Tzedek told him? He said, what should I do that I do enjoy learning Torah? And I was saying the opposite. You would think, if he doesn't enjoy learning Torah, it's bad. So it says, what should I do that I enjoy learning Torah? I have an interest in it. So I do it for my own sake. But you that study Torah because God wants, you don't enjoy it, definitely it's a much higher level. I hope you guys understood it. Any questions before we go further? No questions? No? Okay, guys, let's go talk about one more mitzvah. This week's parshat talks about the mitzvah of tefillin. Because in the tefillin, as you know, we have 4 portions of the Torah, right? Everybody knows the first 2 parts, Shema Yisrael and V'hayim Shema. The Shema has 3 paragraphs. What's so funny about it? Do I look like a clown? I change my face. Am I funny or
I was
something?
thinking about something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Think about good things. Ready, guys? Okay. So tefillin actually has 4 portions in the portion number 1 is Shema Yisrael. Second one is the second paragraph Shema. And then the third and fourth is the Kadesh Li. So in this week's parsha, we have the parsha of Kadesh Li. And let's discuss actually why do we put on tefillin and what does tefillin actually accomplish by putting it on. So simply learning, Every mitzvah has a general intention, general kavanah, and then there's the specific kavanah. The reason why I'm discussing this because it's very important. If somebody does a mitzvah, he has to have the intention of the mitzvah to meaning. When I put on tefillin, if I'm just putting it on and I'm thinking about my business in downtown, I don't really think I'm putting on the tefillin because God said so. I haven't done the mitzvah. Because the intention of the mitzvah is part of the mitzvah. Imagine you're going to put on tefillin, which is instead of 4 portions of the Torah, is only 3 portions. So it's lacking. You didn't do the mitzvah because the mitzvah is missing something. So according to halacha, the intention of the mitzvah is part of the mitzvah too. In other words, I have to put on tefillin because God said so. If I don't have that intention because God said so, so it's as if something is missing from the tefillin. I didn't do the mitzvah. But that's really true regarding every mitzvah. Why am I eating matzah? Because God said so. Why am I praying? Because God said so. But every mitzvah has the specific intention too, not just the general intention. What's the intention? What's the kavanah of putting on tefillin? So you see, there's a very important thing. Tefillin has to be on your bicep. And you have to put it on the inside, so when your hands come down, it's actually across your heart. If you're a lefty, you put it on the right hand, same thing. In other words, you can't put it on the outside part of your hand. It has to be on the inside next to your heart. And then also the head has to be right between your eyes, on your brains, on your skull. What's the reason for that? So halacha says, because when we put it on tefillin, I have to have this intention that I'm giving over my emotions. That's where the heart has the place of emotions, and my thoughts in way of God. That's what I'm supposed to think. Like I subjugate my mind and my heart to God's ways. That's basically the concept of tefillin. So I have to have in mind, I'm doing it because God said so. But why did God tell me to put on tefillin? Remember, every mitzvah, the purpose is to make me a better person. At least one of the reasons of every mitzvah. Part of it is that I have to become a better person. How does tefillin teach me to be a better person? It says, do not do whatever your heart wants. Don't think whatever your brain wants to think. Some desires are evil, some thoughts are evil. If I think about terrorizing a country, that's an evil thought. Right? If I want to do something forbidden, it's an evil desire. So the tefillin teaches me you got to control that. Direct your heart and your mind in the correct way, in the way of God. Clear, people? Another thing that actually is very interesting, and we're going to take it in a very mature way. You see that tefillin of the head has 2 straps coming down. How long is the strap supposed to come down? How much? It's funny. It's funny. It says the right one has to come up to the place of the circumcision, and the left one up to your stomach, up to the belly button, middle of the stomach. Why like that? It says, because a lot of people do whatever their heart wants, and they use their brains to justify what they did. That's very bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, people that do murder, terrorists that go around kill, they know really is wrong. They like to do it because they're evil. So they use religion, they use anything that they want to justify what they did. So then the concept of tefillin is no. You have the tefillin of the head, the straps come down. That means your brains have to control your heart. That's why it comes down from the head. Now don't do things because your heart wants and then justify it. Let your brain control your heart. Not only that, what does it have to come to the place of the circumcision and the stomach? There's 2 things that really people love to do. One is food, and one is, the desire for immoral acts. It's something that was from the beginning of the world, right? Whenever there is a fight in a synagogue, what do you do for the fight to stop? Bring food. Honestly, people forget about their fights. Middle of the prayer, they're going to fight, right? But if you put food, let's fight later. Let's go eat. That's something a person was drawn to. Also, when it comes to sexual things, people have a great desire for that. Whatever, that's the way we are, unfortunately, whatever. Unfortunately. So we hear that tefillin comes all the way down to the place of the circumcision and the stomach. So God is telling us the purpose of this mitzvah is that even those lowly things, our mind has to control it. Do it in a kosher way. Only eat kosher food. When it comes to the act that has to do with the circumcision, do it with your own spouse. Not to go cheat on your spouse. Very, very important things that we learn from tefillin. So these are basic, the intentions of putting on tefillin. That's what it teaches us to become holier people, actually control our base desires. But there's actually something else that I wanted to share with you. It's very important. In the year 1967, right? If you guys go study it, Google it. Right before Six-Day War, everybody knew, the whole world knew that there's going to be a war against Israel from all the neighbors. At that time, honestly, if you ask the politicians, I don't know if they're still alive or not, but you ask anybody who's old, they were sure that Israel is going to get wiped from the map. No Israel will exist. At that time, all the boys and girls that were in yeshivas in Israel, the parents that lived in the United States, they told them, come back home. You have no idea what's going on. The news is that Israel is going to get wiped. So there was actually a woman who wasn't that religious, but the son was very, very religious. And he went to yeshiva in Israel. So he asked the son to come back. So he says, no. The Lubavitch Rebbe said, Israel is the safest place. Don't come back. So there was a certain journalist that was a cousin or something, a nephew to this woman. And this boy in the yeshiva was the only child of this woman. So the woman calls this journalist, the Lubavitch Rebbe, go to him, tell him this is the only child, let him come back, the mother is worried. So he actually gets a private audience with the Lubavitch Rebbe. And then he says, Rabbi, tell this kid to come home. So he says, no, it's a safe place, Israel. So he says, Rabbi, you don't understand. He's the only child. So the Rebbe said, every Jew is like my only child too. It was amazing, the type of love that he had. Anyway, so people said, you don't understand, Israel is in danger. Anybody speaks Hebrew? It says, Israel besakana gedola. There's a big danger for Israel. The Rebbe said, no, there's going to be nitzachon gadol, a big victory. And everybody said it was a miracle. Six-Day War was a miracle. But why did I say that? A few months before Six-Day War happens, so the Rebbe asked all his students to go on the streets of Manhattan, Brooklyn, France, Israel, anywhere. He said, take your tefillin and make sure people put it on. So again, one of my teachers was a French teacher. He taught us Gemara, but he lived in France. His name was Rabbi Lapkovsky. So he told us at that time in 1967, he was a young guy. They went in the streets of Paris. The yeshiva boys in one day, they brought a report. You're talking about tens or 20s of students going in the streets. They put on tefillin on 1,000 people. It was like crazy. People were putting it on. So then afterwards, the Six-Day War broke out. And then somebody asked the Lubavitch Rebbe, why from all the commandments you chose the mitzvah of tefillin? So he says, because it's based on the Gemara. The Talmud talks about what kind of a power tefillin has. And honestly, if we could all put on tefillin every day, if you don't put it on, you're going to see what a great effect it has. The Gemara says, all the nations of the world will see. It's a pasuk in the Torah. It says, it's in the Bible. It says, V'ra'u kol ha'am haaretz. All the nations of the world will see, Ki Shem Hashem nikra lecha, that God's name is upon you. And because of that, the yaru mimeka, they're afraid of you. So the Gemara says, how do the nations of the world see that God's name is upon you? Or over here says God's name, doesn't say anything. So the Gemara says that's the tefillin of the head. Why the tefillin of the head? What's written on the box of the tefillin of the head? There's a shin. That's God, first letter of God's name. Shin Dalet Yud. Also in the back you have a Dalet. The one in the hand is covered up, so you don't see it really. But the head is not covered. So the Gemara says over there, how do the nations of the world see that God's name is upon you when you put on the tefillin of the head? And because of that, the nations will be afraid of you. Your putting on tefillin puts fear on the enemies of the Jews. So the Rebbe said that's why I told everybody to put on tefillin before, because that would scare the enemies to attack. If you actually look at the history, when they wanted to attack, Syria attacked Israel twice. One time in 1967, when they lost, and another time they joined Egypt in 1973, Yom Kippur War. So they were actually catching grounds. They were actually getting grounds in Israel. And then at the end, things turned to the favor of Jews. But anyways, in 1967, when the Syrians were coming down, from Golan Heights to attack, they were afraid. They saw there's no soldiers, nothing. They started getting afraid. What's going on? Maybe there's an ambush. They even didn't come in. They went back. So over there, the Rebbe explained the reason was because of the tefillin that the Jews put on. So in our times, that our brothers and sisters in Israel are in very, very big danger. I don't know where the war is going to take us at the end. Every news you listen to, I don't really know what's going on. Hopefully they're winning. It looks like they're winning, but still they're throwing scuds into Israel. The hostages are not back yet. So I mean, the war is not finished. And as they say in Israel, that it might take a full year. I'm sure you guys are aware of it, right? What could we do here to help our brothers and sisters in Israel? Your tefillin makes a difference. So I'm going to ask you, please, guys. It takes only 5 minutes. We definitely take coffee breaks for 5 minutes, right? They give you a lunch break when you go to work for 45 minutes. Can we put 5 minutes to put on tefillin, say Shema, and take it up? That's what we want to do. If anybody doesn't have pairs of tefillin and there's a financial issue, whatever it is, you will come to us, privately. There's a person that sponsors it. If somebody really can't afford it, but he's going to promise he's going to try to put it on every day, at least try to. So somebody's a person in Persian community that sponsors it. So I mean, you don't have to make it public. I don't want anybody to be embarrassed. But if you can put on tefillin, if from tonight, people that don't put it on yet, they're going to start putting it on, starting at least once a week, twice a week. It's a big mitzvah, and at the same time, it actually helps our brothers and sisters in Israel. Any questions? Tefillin, man. Your tefillin matters. Seriously, your tefillin matters. Definitely. Anyways. Let's get one more thing, otherwise we go. I think we're going to stop here. It was a very short class tonight, guys. What happened to last week? We got like 30 people.